So good morning, my art journal friends. Swan here. So as I was talking about in our art journal group, I asked if anyone's got tissue or deli paper. So the reason being is you can create some great background tools using those as they blend in with most of your background, depending on what colour tissue paper you use. So I have a bucket full of old tissue papers in quite a few different colours, which I can use as well, depending on what I'm after. So but today I'm going to be using white, or which would turn clear tissue paper. So you can buy tissue. This is the cream one. I've used all the white, so I couldn't find any leftovers. So this one's just at most places that sell wrapping paper, and there's 5 sheets, and it's great for doing this particular thing. You can use this one as well. If you have a oranger background, it would probably blend in a lot better, but it depends on what you're after as your final result, or it may be one of those great accidental pluses. Everything can be worked with, so I'll put that aside. So this is a deli paper. So this is what they used to, and in some places, wrap sandwiches up with. So it's not wax based. It's not like our baking sheets, which have that slippery side of it. I've tried using that and it doesn't work, as glue just doesn't stay adhesed. Or clothes you get. I just brought a couple of singlets and inside was a couple of sheets of tissue paper. Perfect. I had supplies sent to me with tissue paper. Perfect. So what I'm going to do with my down camera, which is pointing to my desk face, is show you some of the shapes we can use, or make up. You can do them yourself. So you can use, to do this, stencils of course, or masks. Of course stamps, and stamps, as you know, can be used either with paint or with ink. And it creates the type of decoupage style you're after. So you can actually create a whole page stamping text all over it, and you have that text in a different way and more controlled as you're tearing and placing, and it's actually placed exactly where you want it. So if you've already done your focal point, but you feel it needs some stamping, but you don't want to accidentally hit a certain area, having tissue paper already pre-stamped gives you that option to then add that next depth. Layers are never too late. You can continue to add your layers, as you know I love. So you've got all your different stamps. It doesn't matter, you know, brickwork, more text. But today I'm going to show you freehand styles, which would be crosses and lines, etc. to use. So I've got some other stencils that actually have these shapes in it. The only problem I find, so that's great to use on your piece, but if you want a lot of crosses, this isn't going to do it for you. It's not going to give you, like for me, as you've seen, I like to do 1s, 3s, 5s. Those particular numbers are not in place because the artists themselves have done what they wanted to put in place to create the stencil. So these stencils are great, and yes, you can use them. It's not an issue. So there's some great many that actually have all these shapes and methods that you can actually create yourself pre or during your art journal process. So I'm going to turn over to just my overhead now, and actually no, I won't. I'll show you the paints I'm going to use. Now in this is a Coles frozen cheesecake you can get in the frozen section. So basically in there was a cheesecake and take it out, but it's got a plastic lid, glass, which is awesome, and I was able to create my very thin dark blue and my thin black. Now you also can use drawing ink in this process, but this is quite easy to do. You can either just do the paint with water and that's all. If you have it, you can add that, what is it, the Arabic glue that you can add, the dry powder, which will actually keep it all the pigments gelled together. Or you can use something like this clear gel medium, which isn't a gluish thing, but it will actually extend the pigmentation of your paint, make it a little bit thicker, but then when you add more water, it's not losing the pigmentation, because the more water you add to any acrylic, the pigmentation goes, because all the resin is split. So you need something to bind it to get that. It's not a problem though, because we're only doing markings, so all you want to do is put a permanent medium on your tissue paper that you can then glue onto your final art journal page. So I've got those, right, and the same recipe is in my bottles that I use to do script writing, well, my pretend script writing in my art journal pages. My blue is a lot thinner than my black because I just haven't quite got it down, but at the same time when it dries, it's actually paler than what it first goes on, which is unusual for acrylic. Acrylic is usually darker as it dries, but this one, because it's actually lower, it's got higher water consistency, it actually goes lighter, which is sometimes a bonus. So I hope that explains that process. So what I'll do now is I'll say goodbye here, and I'll add this to a little corner of part of it, and we'll go on down here. So just ignore me when I turn my head sideways. Hopefully you can still hear me when I add it to the editing shortly. So I've got the tissue paper, which is exactly like the tissue you can buy as gift wrap, and the deli paper. Now, as to where to get the deli paper, that's something I had forgotten to tell you. At Mixed Media store online, Mimi sells 20 sheets. They're 12 by 12. So you can then turn it into an A4 if you want, depending on what you do. But this particular paper will go through your printer. This won't. This will go through if you put it on an A4 sheet and your printer doesn't love chewing. I have not successfully put this type of tissue paper, even with the process that Swan uses and other artists use, where they actually tape it onto an A4 piece of paper and feed it through that way. My particular printer likes to eat. But when I cut this to an A4, I just do it widthwise, it's a little bit longer than an A4. I can feed it through and actually obtain, I just can't find them, they're not quite here. I can actually obtain a printable, workable result, which is great, which means I can do some of my focal images onto this, and rather than using a paper that I have to cut around fussy, I can actually rip it and blend it in that way. So what I'll do is I'm actually going to do it on both surfaces so you can actually see, and then I'll actually show you on a art journal page. So excuse me all of a sudden if my husband comes in, I forgot to tell him I'm recording this way. Okay, so here's my sheet. So I'll start with this particular tissue paper. So I don't mind that it's crinkled. You can iron it, make it flat if it's easier for you to do. So what we're going to do is I'm actually going to grab one of these food ball pens for now and actually just do some markings on this. So some of the markings we can do is, of course, the crosses. So you will have to hold the paper down as you're doing, so maybe ironing would be a good idea. Oh, see, just an accidental mistake, but it doesn't matter. They don't have to be perfect. It's here as a extra point for your journal paging. So I'm just going to do some crosses here in this corner. Just doing a small area as such, doing them so they're not all even, making it so they're random, even taking some off the page. And so some crosses in the top corner. So that's one marking that we can use. Now if you're wondering where I got this food ball from, I actually got this off Amazon, a pack of 5. So the other shape you can do is just, I don't know if you've seen them, the little half circles down sides that a lot of artists use, and they turn them into different shapings, you know, adding extra circles or, you know, doing lines. It's another little marking that you can do. They're basically your marking sheet of what we're creating here is, again, up your measure. It's part of your journal. So it could be that you've already got something in your mind, but you just want to add a different feature and some texture, because you gotta remember, when tissue paper goes down, you're adding some texture as well. So I'm just going to add some zigzags down here, and I'm going to do some internal little semicircles here, and just do, I'm just going to colour that one in without tearing too much. So there's another shape we can use. So the other one, of course, is just circles, and these can be as big or as little or as many as you like. And so you're just drawing on here with your permanent pen, which is why you can actually use the other colours. So if you used a black, you would use maybe one of your gel pens, the gel pen I use is a pigment ink from Uniball Sigma Broad, and it's actually a pigment, so once it's dry it is permanent. So you either need a pigment ink or an archival ink to become permanent with your pens. You can actually even use a ballpoint pen. Okay, I use either this food ball, which is a 1.7, or I use the Uniball Mitsubishi, which is an archival, but it's a fine, so it's actually smaller. So if I actually add this now, it actually looks different. And my hands are automatically doing larger circles with this. Not sure why, but that's what it's doing. So you can still add some more crosses, but because it's a sharper tip, it will often tear your tissue paper. I'm just going to put that one away for the now. So there's some more shapes, it's some circles. So this could be all over your whole background, these. Because as I said, there's no rules, this is yours. So another shape, of course, we can use, I've just got a reference to the side so I remember what I'm doing. So we can do some love hearts. And you can colour those in black if you wish, have them as dark, or leave them open, again, depending on what you want in your little sections. So these aren't all coming clear, but that's all right. I don't mind that. It's like when you're doing random inking. Sometimes it isn't as clear as it could be. And it could be that this pen isn't quite catching. One trick I found that Marimi found out, that if you roll your pen as you're drawing, especially your food ball, it will write on everything, but if you turn it, it's like it's keeping the ball at the tip clean. So there's a lot of ink coming off there. So that's another shape. Of course, you can do your lines. You can do your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, the count-offs. It's another easy, and it's something you can actually just do straight on your journal page to do some added. So there's just a few shapes that you can do with just your pen. Okay, so now I'm going to get a small brush. Here, just going to wet that in, make sure it's all clean and viable. I'm going to open up my black acrylic, so just be careful when you open up these if you actually get this method of doing it, or you get a screw top. You know, an old paint tub, like the ones from Delusion. If you've emptied it, keep the container. You just never know what you can use it for. I'm pulling faces here, can you see? Okay. Off she goes. Right, so there's some on the lid, so we can use it straight from the lid as well. So, I'm just going to show you in this camera if I can. Oh, you can't see it, but I'll show you up here. It's very, very wet, but the pigment is basically almost holding together. So I'm going to wet this brush, and with this I can just do little taps on. And again, this is my personal preference, I'm doing my odd numbers, but again some more shaping for the tissue paper. Excuse me. Okay, so that's another shape. So then you can still get back in and do your circles. This particular brush is too fat, but it's still doing an unusual shape. It's still a shape that you can use. There's nothing wrong with what it's doing, because these are markings. Markings aren't your focal point. Markings are your complementaries. Right, so we've got some rough little circle-like shapes there. We can do some lines, some thicker lines with this. Make sure they go off the edge of the paper. And because the brush is splitting it sometimes, because it's not the best of brushes, but it's doing what I want. It's making some shapes on my tissue. Here comes the pitter patter of my dog. Hello, Mammals. Right, so there's some more shapes. So, what I'm going to do now is bring in my nozzle. I'll see how this goes. So this, just make sure it's clear. Yep. And this we can do, again, you'll have to hold it. You can do some waves. And this gives you a finer, but because it's the tissue paper, it will sometimes grab as it gets wet. So you just need to be aware of that. So some squiggle lines, just do another one. And remember, as you're tearing it to go on your page, it doesn't have to be the whole, it can be part of, it can be a mixture of a couple. So, and you can also do some writing, but I find that easier on the actual page than doing it on tissue paper. And as you see, it's now wet, we've actually got it quite slightly stick on my glass surface here, which is fine also. So we can actually continue here with the X's, and these ones will be chunkier as you're getting more paint. But that does make them slightly different. It just adds another dimension to your markings. Right, so there's that. Okay, so teardrops is another one. Whether you want teardrops, I find teardrops is something I used to always do when I was younger and a teenager. I used to always draw my ladies that I used to do as a kid with teardrops, always. Eyes always had tears. I don't know why, it's just my mind. So the other thing you can use, of course, which is something I hadn't brought in, is the Posca pen. So if you grab a black Posca pen, you can just add your smaller dots. As it is a paint pen, it is permanent. And you could do that with any of the colours of your Posca pens. So basically what I'm trying to encourage you to do is go out of your comfort zone just that little bit, but this is giving you a controlled area to work on that you can use either as a whole or as part, till apart, added as a feature. I've added lots here. It could be that you just want to do just the lines all over one sheet of tissue paper, so you've actually got that whole sheet. You can take two from that sheet for this bit or that sheet from that bit. As the other one we can do is, of course, large circles. Some of these you would have seen as in the Rangers collection. They sell ones with half a sheet is large circles and the other half I think is kind of swirls. You can create them yourself. That saves you a little bit of money. You're using your supplies, all you're doing is purchasing something cheaper. So you do this kind of on a budget. So this is this page done. As it's wet and still a bit sensitive, I'll move this across somewhere hopefully to dry. I could blow dry it, or air dry it, but I'll just do it this way. So now I'm going to get my deli paper so you can see, because I'm going to be adding this to a page so you can see it gel down. Right, so again, some other shapes. What can we do? Okay, we can grab my food ball again. I'm going to add some fine lines. That surface it doesn't work on, so there is a slight waxing. So you make sure you're on the right side to do. Yeah, this side works better with the food ball. So I'm just going to do some lines. This is also good for gel printing and other types of artwork like that. Or if you haven't got a gel print, you can actually use a piece of plastic. Is the other choice. So don't forget, we can stamp. I've just got it's actually foam. I've actually got 2 layers. I only bought it at Shiploads, which is here in Tassie, and I stuck one side's got double-sided tape on it, so basically I stuck 2 together, and then I stuck it onto a piece of cardboard. But the top one is actually cut out on my use a die cut. Now you only can put one of the thin sheets, so it's a little bit thicker than the sheets Rachel uses to make flowers with, or other cutouts. So it's a little bit thicker than that. Not much, but it is thicker. So it gives you like a sponge, but it works beautifully. And I love this particular effect. So that's great to add. It's great to add straight to your art journal page as well. So just going to add some larger circles, I think, on here with the black. Making sure I've got some really dark black, so I've actually got black. That's better. So taking it off the lid, Diane, take it off out of the jar. So there's some large circles to use. Now I'm going to do just some spirally circles. They don't have to be perfect. It's here to have fun. So there's that, and then I'm going to do some hearts. I should use a thinner brush, but this will work fine. I'm just going to colour them in. Sometimes when I'm doing these type of thing, my brain doesn't remember what shapes can be used in markings. So I will hop on to Pinterest and actually refresh my brain, or print off some references like this one, some references of what we can do. Okay, so it just sits there while I'm doing it, so I can click on my mind, and I think I can do crosses, I can do stars. So there's another one that works really well. But there are also things that I also add to my journal page depending on my mood, what the page is. I don't know why I'm still hanging on to that. Okay, now we've got some hearts, they're large. And now I want some chunky lines. I'm going to put some chunky lines here. I'm actually going to cross them over. Okay, so now I'm going to show you the, haven't got much room left on that particular page, but I'll show you what my blue does. Actually, I'll use the blue bottle. Now, even though this is great, the lid is hard to put on, so you have to have steady hands. So if you don't have a good hand to put that type of lid on, I'd suggest you get a jar that you can open. Okay. So I'm grabbing my blue one. I'm actually just going to add some dots. And you can hear me tap, 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 tapping. And I'm going to draw some of those spiral circles. So this one, this deli paper, I can actually do my writing on, because it's thicker and the pen, it doesn't grab through. As it gets wet though, the wet does come through, so it will soak up the water, and it does soak up the ink out of your inkjet printer, because who can afford a laser? It's not the laser itself, it's the cartridges to replace it. So that's roughly some of the things you can do. I'm not going to continue use. I've all done shapes and that type of thing in other formats. You've all used stamps, etc. onto surfaces, so you know roughly where I'm hoping you should know roughly what I'm talking about. So it's a case of you just making this. It could be that you cover it all with butterflies. Get your butterfly stamps out and put them all on properly, and then you can cut them out or tear them out and stick them on the page, and then you colour them in. Same with flowers. If you've got a lot of flower stamps and stuff, using the deli paper gives you more control of some of your things. The other one you can use, of course, is lettering. It really makes it easier. If you've got a very busy page but you want your lettering and it's too hard, all the surface is rough because of your elements, putting your message onto the deli or tissue paper, whichever you're using, you can then cover that and glue it on, and it's more controlled. You can also add it to a different colour tissue paper to bring it out a little bit further if that's what you wish. So it gives you a few bits to play with. So what I'm going to do is dry this off now. Put those paints away for the minute. So that's all dry now. So I have some tissue paper, and it has a whole lot of shapes on it. And I have the deli paper, which has a whole lot of shapes on it. Right, so I'll put them off the side. I'm going to grab a page to work on. So what I'm actually going to grab is an actual scrapbooking sheet. I have got a pile of pages that I use for that. So I'm actually contemplating making an art journal from it. that, I'm going to fold the sheets in half, like so, and then fold the sheets in half, like so, and create my own journal like that with those pages stuck together so they're a bit thicker. Still contemplating, as each of those pages are different thickness, so and I haven't even folded these straight, but it will work for what I want to do. So for this you will need a soft gel medium or an acrylic medium, something that's actually runny. Well, Mark sells one. This one's a gloss. It's also what you could actually add to your paint to create it, to make it thinner. Or I've got the little birdie soft gel medium, which is what I'm going to use today. Looks like we just received some roo. Yeah! Local farmer says they're everywhere. Okay, so that, of course, I've got a new one. So I'm going to open for my fingers. No. Out goes the lovely craft knife. Okay, so I'm just going to tear off these lines. Just tearing it up randomly at the moment. I want some of those crosses. That one. What else do I want out of that? Well, I want some of those chunky circles. And so you'll see them in the film below what I'm doing. So I'll leave that one there. And then on this one, I want some of these blue dots. So usually they'll probably come in on about maybe the third layer after some paint and stuff, but I'm just doing this straight on this paper for now, just to show you what the effect is. Going to do some of these little painter stamping ones, and I'll come back to that. So, grabbing a brush, we'll take it off that lid there. Okay. Now, remember with tissue paper, make sure it's very wet underneath when you're using it, as it is very fine. So then, sure this one has a fold in it, so I didn't realise when I was adding the paint. Oh, that just gives an extra. So thick underneath, put your markings down and spread that out, making sure it's wet on top as well. Now don't overwork tissue paper. The more you move it, the more likely it is. You can gently rub your brush over to make sure that it's not too thick of gel, but if you work with it too much, it will tear. Now the deli paper, on the other hand, as it's thicker, yes, you still need to be careful, but it gives you a little bit, it gives you more tolerance to the overworking, so you can actually work at getting some of those crinkles out. Who wants crinkles out? So some more tissue paper over here. So I can see that I've got little bits of paint on my hands as it's actually passing out onto my page here. So there's some more tissue paper. I'm going to half those blue dots there. I'm going to add some blue dots into this corner here. And while I'm at it, I'm actually going to add some glue to the inside of this so it actually glues together in the drying process. So I can decide what I'm going to do. I think I will go through and make this journal like this, as I have different types of papers And I think it'll make an interesting textured journal. So be careful again of the tissue paper. Probably wrong time to be doing what I just did, but don't know if you're anything like me, but when you think of something, you do it. And you do it now. Right, more of these lines over here. There. Some of these crosses, I'm going to split those crosses and put half of them there. And some of them over there. Very gentle as that one's tissue paper. So what else do I want? I might grab those two love hearts. And that bit of writing. Okay, and what do I want here? I want those little half hearts. Right. So I'm going to put those little love hearts over here. And it doesn't matter if you're layering your tissue paper over your tissue paper. So now you can actually see, I'll show you in a minute in that camera, as I think this will do for now. This will do for now. So that bit there. Don't forget, make sure there's plenty of wet glue underneath. Right, all over. Okay, close that off, lift that up. So this is what we've got. If you have a look, it's not dry yet, so I might actually dry that off, so excuse me, back in a sec. Okay, so back again. So here you can see, okay, that camera's frozen. Why have you frozen on me? Oh, power went off. Silly me. I wonder how far that can record. I don't know. So teach me to always plug my power back in on my camera. Just waiting for it to connect. Might have to go back through the other way. So I control my overhead camera. Actually, I'll just grab this so you can actually see. There it is there. So this is my overhead camera. I'm going to change this at a future date, but I'm using over here is my phone. So that's what I'm using to control the overhead. Means I can see what I'm recording, and it lets me know when something like that happened, but because I wasn't watching it, I don't know if I think I've missed the drying process, which is fine. Right, turn press record. Right, so now we're caught up. So here you can see, because this was a piece of deli paper, it's gone over the other and it made it cloudy. That's probably the only thing you'll find. So this again is, this is the deli paper. Probably dulls the back a little bit, but not much. And the tissue paper, you can't, other than the texture, here, other than the texture, can't tell where it's been placed. That's deli paper. Okay, so that's one shed method with you. So what I will do now is add some paint. So I'm going to say bye, because this is probably about 30 minutes now, but I'll take a photo of that so you've got a close-up, and hopefully I'll be back soon with some more little tricks to help you in your art journaling journey. Thanks. Love yous all.